Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this subject talk for economics at Birmingham. My name is Kerry Davis. I'm a lecturer in economics, but I'm also undergraduate admissions tutor for the department. So I'll be talking you through our programs today. So before I go any further, let me define which programs I'm talking about in this presentation. So these are the degree programs that are managed by the Department of Economics. And at the top there, I've listed BSc Economics. That's our largest program. So I put that one first. But we also offer a range of other programs. For example, BSc Money Banking and Finance combines elements of economics with accounting, banking, and finance. BSc Mathematical Economics and Statistics goes into more detail on some of the mathematical elements of economics, and I'll talk about those in more detail later on. Then we have two language programs. You can study BSc Economics with German or BSc Economics with Spanish. These are four-year programs, the languages programs, because you spend your third year studying economics abroad in either German or Spanish. The other programs on this list are three-year programs. Last but not least, we have a joint honors program, BSc Economics and Political Science. This program is 50% economics, 50% political science. Now, in the short time that I have today, as you can imagine, I won't be able to go into full detail about every detail for each of the 6 programs listed here. But each program has its own web page. So for the duration of the talk, I'm going to be referring to all of these programs. There are 6 here because there are 2 language programs, of course. So I'm going to be referring, anything I say refers to all of these programs for the remainder of the talk. So let me take a step back and just ask, what is economics? Some of you may be studying economics at school or college at the moment, and that's great if you are, but we don't require it for any of our programs. We do not ask for or require A-level economics. So some of you will be more familiar than others with what we mean by economics and what we study in economics. So on this slide, I've got the American Economic Association definitions, although there are many, many definitions that you can find, but I thought that these 2 are particularly good. Economics is the study of how people use scarce resources, and respond to incentives. Or, stated another way, economics is the study of decision-making and choices. Now, when we think of scarce resources, we could be thinking at an individual level. That could be your individual income or perhaps your household income. Or we might be thinking at a national or a global level in terms of natural resources. You will find that economics can be applied to a broad range of topics. Some you might expect, others perhaps are less expected. At the top of the slide there, I have Adam Smith, who is considered to be really the founding father of economics with his 1776 work. So economics is a relatively young discipline compared to, say, physics or chemistry, but of course, it has evolved a lot over those in the intervening time period, and you'll be studying the cutting edge of economics. You'll be looking at cutting edge research as I go through. So economics gives us quite a powerful framework. It can help us to understand the world, essentially, whether that's the past, current global events, or even to anticipate future challenges and opportunities. And I'll show you some examples of those as we go through. Why study economics? Well, it's interesting, firstly, although you'd expect me to say that. It's also very varied, as I will show you in the next 2 slides. It's also highly relevant to the real world. So at the top of the slide there, I have a screenshot from the Birmingham Heroes campaign. The lady on the left is Professor Kim Scharf. She's our head of department, the head of economics. And she was recognized actually nationally and internationally for her research on the economics of charitable giving and the economics of financial inclusion. So economics can have a real world impact. It resonates with policymakers and it can affect change in the world. The second reason why it's important to study economics, or why I think economics is a good degree discipline to follow, is the range of skills that it's going to give you. So as an economics student, you will develop both quantitative and qualitative skills. This combination is highly valued by employers if you're looking ahead to your future career intentions. And we're going to hear from the Careers Network in a separate talk, so I won't say too much about that. But if you have a look at any graduate earnings table, you tend to find that medicine and dentistry is at the top, and then economics is usually in second or third place in terms of average earnings. Why is that? Well, because economics graduates possess this strong combination of both quantitative and qualitative skills. And when we ask employers, they tell us that economics students have the skills that they need to thrive in the workplace. So it's a clear reflection under either measure. People often think that economics is only about finance or money. It can be about that, but not necessarily. So on this first slide, actually, I've included some of the more traditional, let's say, economics topics, whether that's monetary policy, you've got the Bank of England there at the top left, fiscal policy, unemployment, international trade, financial markets. You will study these on one of our economics programs. And indeed, these are very important topics in economics. But economics is about more than that. And at Birmingham, we have a large department. We have around 50 academic staff. So there are people who will be teaching you, people who are conducting research into economics. And because of the size of our department, we have a broad range of expertise. So I know from reading many personal statements over the years, a lot of students are interested in things like environmental economics. We have a strong research group in environmental economics, and that feeds through to your teaching. If you look at the center picture there, that's supposed to represent climate change and environmental economics. We have a group of researchers who work on the economics of crime. That's an important area where economic tools can be applied to help policymakers achieve better outcomes. I mentioned charitable giving already. That's supposed to be the picture at the top left of the slide. Then the clock there is supposed to represent time. So I spoke about scarce resources, our household income, perhaps natural resources, but actually time is also a scarce resource. We're all trying to allocate our time as efficiently as we can. So actually economics brings in the fact that time is a scarce resource and we want to spend it as efficiently as we can. There is even a big economics literature on the economics of sport, and I've chosen football as an example here, but the tools of economics can be applied to really any professional team sport and indeed individual sports as well. So there is a big literature on the economics of sport, which is something you might not immediately expect. And then another scarce resource that we use when making decisions every day, of course, is information. And there's a lot of discussion in the media these days about false information and how that can spread through social media or through other platforms, this idea of fake news. And indeed, in economics, we have people doing research into the importance of information to people when making choices. The picture at the bottom right-hand side of side of the slide is supposed to show the coronavirus ongoing events, topical events that policymakers want answers to right away. At Birmingham and in the Department of Economics, your teaching experience is going to be informed by the latest research in the field. So the University of Birmingham was awarded the Teaching Excellence Framework Gold standard when the most recent assessment was completed. And one of the things the assessors picked up on was the strength of our research-informed teaching. And that's true in the Department of Economics as well. So your lecturers, the people who are teaching you, will be conducting research in the field. That's how you know they are experts in what they do. In other words, that's how you know that you're getting a high quality experience and that you are learning the latest information. So our lecturers are leading researchers in their fields, internationally recognized for their work. This directly informs our teaching. It's also important when you get to the final year, because final year students will write what we call an extended essay. In other universities, they may call this a dissertation. We call it an extended essay. And students will work one-to-one with an academic member of staff on a research topic of their choice. So obviously, it's really important then that we have a broad range of expertise in the department so that students are able to work on topics that they are really interested in. Not only that, but there are also exciting opportunities for students to participate in our research. At Birmingham, we have the Behavioral Experimental Economics and Data Science group, and the Behavioral Economics and Data Science group have a lab on campus, an economics lab. It's not quite as impressive as a chemistry lab with chemicals bubbling everywhere and explosions going off all over the place. But it is an economics lab, essentially a controlled environment where people who work on behavioral economics, and I know this is popular from reading personal statements over the years, behavioral economics, where researchers who work in the field of behavioral economics can actually introduce games, and they can study how people respond to incentives, how people respond, how people make decisions, which, as I said a few slides ago, is really what economics is all about. So there are exciting opportunities for students to get involved with our research firsthand. So that's important to us as a department. We engage students with what we're doing, and we bring this into our teaching. And this has continued even through the recent pandemic that we've been going through, and obviously working off campus. We've been organizing Zoom seminars for students to give them some topical talks about how economics can be applied to the current crisis. So for example, on the 14th of May, Professor Goenka gave a talk to students on COVID-19 and the modeling of epidemics, how we do this in economics and how we can apply economics to the current crisis. And then on the 28th of May, Dr. McDonald gave a talk about public preferences for equity and efficiency when saving lives. Essentially, this is about how to allocate scarce healthcare resources during the time of a pandemic have recently had to confront. If you'd like to know more about how we engage with students through our research, please do have a look at our economics Twitter page. You can see the handle there, it's at econ_UB. You can browse, you can follow us, whatever you prefer to do through the Twitter page. We also have a YouTube channel that's been set up in just the last week. The name for that is Econ UBHAM. That's the name at the bottom of the label at the bottom of the slide there. And actually, you can watch some of these Zoom talks. So I think Dr. McDonald's talk is there. We will be uploading more as time goes on to the YouTube channel. So if you'd like to have a look at how we engage with our students, how we communicate our research to our students, please do look at either of these channels. We also have a Facebook page as well, but you can find a link to that from our Twitter page. So let me talk a little bit about how the degree program is structured. And this will be common across all universities when you're looking around at different programs. We deliver our content through modules. Some of these modules are core and some of them are optional. So some are compulsory, some are optional. Again, if you want to know exactly which modules are offered and exactly which modules are compulsory or optional for each program, I would encourage you to visit the webpage for the particular program that you are interested in. But generally speaking, the modules can be categorized as theoretical, econometrics. This is the mathematics and statistics of economics, which will be a new term for you, I imagine, even if you are studying A-level economics. So that's something that we will explain, of course, as we go through the program. Applied economics, financial economics, and behavioral and experimental economics. I've talked about that already. We assess students through a variety of continuous assessments. So that could be essays, group presentations, projects, and so on. And then a final exam, similar to what you will already know from school or college. We have exam periods in January and May, June. This is what we call a semesterized academic calendar. In other words, the exams are spread out throughout the year, either in January or in May, June, which obviously is better for students than having one very, very busy exam period at the very end of the year. One common question at Open Days is how much mathematics is involved in economics. Now, I talked about the quantitative skills that you'll develop through an economics or related degree program. Mathematics is important for economics, and we will certainly be using mathematics in our program. That's important. It's why the degree, or partly why the degree program is very valuable to students. But we use mathematics in economics in an applied way. We use it to build theories, to test theories, to make quantitative predictions, and we build economic models. So these economic models typically involve maths. Now, unlike most other Russell Group universities, actually, we don't insist on A-level mathematics. And there are several reasons for that. We think that it's a little bit too severe actually to exclude all students who haven't studied A-level mathematics. Perhaps you're studying physics, but you decided not to study mathematics at A-level for some reason. It's not that you're not quantitative, it's just that you decided to take a different path, you made a different choice at A-level. So we don't require A-level mathematics. But in the first year, if you don't have A-level mathematics, you will study a dedicated module in the first year that will teach you the essential concepts from A-level maths that you need to succeed on an economics program. So broadly speaking, this is algebra, statistics, and calculus. Those students who do have A-level maths will study a different module where you push further on the concepts that you already know. So we have a lot of experience doing this over the years, and we know from experience that students who don't have A-level maths are not disadvantaged in any way compared to students who do have A-level maths. And of course, through your optional modules, especially in the second and third year, you may decide to pick the less quantitative optional modules. So you can tailor the program to some extent as well. But there will be a core element of mathematics that's necessary and important as you go through the program. But not having A-level maths is no barrier at all. So in terms of student support, we offer, as you'd expect, a lot of support for students as they go through their program. Every student will have a dedicated personal tutor. So that's a full-time member of academic who will oversee your progress throughout your program. All academic staff have weekly office hours where students can just show up without an appointment and ask any questions they like about their program or about their modules. Then we have welfare and well-being support, student mentor systems, academic skills sessions where students can develop their essay writing or math skills. And I will leave the Careers Network talk for the next presentation because you'll hear more about that very shortly. Now, obviously, university is not just an academic experience. There are lots of exciting opportunities outside of the classroom. When not studying, students get involved with student societies. We have a very active and prominent economic society within the department that we support as a department. But in fact, this is completely student run, so all credit really goes to the students in terms of the success of this society. You might decide to serve as a student rep on our student staff committee. There will be support for health and well-being. The university has excellent sporting facilities, so students like to get involved with competitive sport. You might decide to learn a language, or you may spend some of your non-academic time, let's say, working on your CV, working with the Careers Network, essentially career development. So let me say a little bit about indicative offers. I'm using A-level really to indicate the entry requirement. If you're studying a different qualification, please visit the web page for each program, and we obviously can translate from A-levels to other types of qualification. But what you see is that for BSc Economics, the standard offer is AAA to AAB. It would be AAB if you're studying A-level maths and AAA otherwise. So we do recognize A-level maths, but we don't insist on it in order to join our programs. It's the same for money banking and finance. Mathematical economics and statistics, the entry requirement for that is AAA, but that one requires A-level maths. For the economics with language, you need to be studying an A-level in the language because the language starts off at quite a high level. And then for joint honors, the standard entry requirement is AAB at A-level. However, it's worth saying that your offer, your Birmingham offer, will be individual to you. It takes account of your GCSE results. So for example, we require GCSE mathematics at grade A, which is a 7 in the new grading system. And it will also depend on your personal statement. If you're taking an EPQ, that reduces your standard offer by 1 grade. So actually lots of different factors feed into your offer. So I would encourage you to go to our website, have a look at the offer calculator and feed in your details. And then the system can tell you your most likely offer. Okay, so with that, I'll thank you for listening. I'm going to leave you with a picture of the campus since we're all missing it these days, but we hope to be back there as soon as possible. And thank you very much for joining the talk today.